Just days after the tragic crash that claimed the life of aerobatic legend Rob Holland, the NTSB has moved with unusual speed to release its preliminary report, and what they've uncovered is already sending shockwaves through the aviation world. At the heart of the findings lies a deceptively small detail with potentially massive implications. A missing elevator plug, part of a custom modification to Holland's high-performance MXS aircraft, may have jammed a critical control surface at the worst possible moment. Let's break down exactly what investigators have revealed so far, and why this tiny component could become one of the most controversial elements of the case. According to the preliminary report released by the NTSB, multiple eyewitnesses observed the aircraft, an MXS aerobatic plane, executing what appeared to be a normal final approach to runway 08 at Langley. As the airplane reached the threshold, it leveled off at an estimated 50 feet above the runway and continued flying straight for several hundred feet. This maneuver, while slightly unusual in length, did not immediately suggest distress. However, within seconds, the routine approach turned into catastrophe. The aircraft began to porpoise, a series of abrupt pitch oscillations, twice. It then suddenly pitched upward, rolled sharply 90 degrees to the left, and descended uncontrollably into the ground. The impact occurred approximately 500 feet beyond the runway threshold and 100 feet to the left of the runway surface, coming to rest in a grassy ditch. Initial observations from the NTSB noted that there were no signs of in-flight structural failure. The airframe remained largely intact until impact. All major components of the aircraft were recovered at the site, and no fire or explosion was reported. However, one specific and unusual finding stood out: a missing component from the left elevator assembly, something that would become central to understanding this tragic event, and we'll soon talk about. The aircraft at the center of this tragic accident was an MXS model, a high-performance, single-seat, single-engine carbon fiber aircraft built by MX Aircraft Tech Pty Ltd. Registered as November 530 Romeo Hotel, this machine was anything but ordinary. Tailored specifically for extreme aerobatics, the MXS is designed to push the limits of flight and the human body. Powered by a 380 horsepower Lycoming engine, it can reach speeds up to 230 knots, withstand up to 16 G of force, and roll at a stunning 500 degrees per second. These capabilities make it one of the most agile and advanced aerobatic platforms in the world. The aircraft was issued a special airworthiness certificate in the experimental category, a designation commonly given to exhibition aircraft used in air shows and racing. That category also permits significant customization, a fact that becomes important in understanding what may have gone wrong. Rob Holland wasn't just flying this aircraft. He had a hand in shaping it. He worked closely with the manufacturer to modify the MXS to his specific needs and flight style. One of the most notable modifications involved the elevator system. Access holes were added to both the left and right elevators, allowing Rob to insert or remove counterweights to fine-tune the elevator's control forces. This allowed him to optimize the aircraft's handling characteristics based on the demands of each unique aerobatic routine. These modifications weren't experimental for the sake of novelty. They were part of Rob's relentless pursuit of precision. However, any time custom changes are made to critical flight control systems, even small oversights can carry significant risk. Importantly, the aircraft had recently undergone a condition inspection, the experimental equivalent of an annual inspection. That inspection was completed on March 3, 2025, just weeks before the accident, with the aircraft logging 1,062 hours of total airframe time. Everything at that time appeared to be in proper order. Yet, as the investigation would soon highlight, something small, possibly overlooked, had the potential to bring down even a world-class aircraft, piloted by one of the best in the world. As the NTSB's preliminary investigation progressed, one specific finding began to dominate attention, not due to its size, but due to its potential significance. That finding centered around the elevator counterweight access plug on the left side of the horizontal tail. Rob Holland's aircraft had been heavily customized to suit his highly technical and demanding aerobatic routines. Among those modifications were access holes in both the left and right elevators designed to hold adjustable counterweights. These counterweights were used to fine-tune elevator feel and responsiveness, an essential customization for a pilot performing aggressive and precise aerial maneuvers. To seal these holes, threaded aluminum plugs were installed, simple in concept but critical in function. However, unlike standard certified aircraft components, these plugs were not safety wired, cotter pinned, or mechanically locked. In many areas of aviation design, especially when dealing with rotating, vibrating, or stressed components, redundant safety features are used to prevent unintentional loosening. But in this case, the plugs appear to have relied solely on friction and thread engagement to stay in place, despite being mounted on a surface regularly subjected to high G loads, rapid changes in pressure, and extreme vibration. The post-crash inspection revealed that while the right elevator plug remained installed and intact, the left elevator plug was missing from its mounting location. It was discovered about 10 feet behind the wreckage, lying in the grass, a short but telling distance that suggested it separated during flight, not upon impact. The recovered plug showed no signs of thread damage or stripping, which ruled out a mechanical failure or forceful dislodging from a breakage. Instead, the presence of dirt contamination on the plug's threads and on the matching threads inside the elevator's access hole strongly suggested that the plug had slowly backed out over time, likely due to engine or aerodynamic vibration. This condition may have persisted unnoticed until it reached a critical point during the final approach to Langley Air Force Base. But it was the evidence of physical interference that raised the most serious concerns. The horizontal stabilizer, the fixed tail surface to which the elevators are hinged, displayed clear dents, paint scrapes, and a deformed washer adjacent to the plug's mounting location. These marks were consistent with the plug having jammed against the stabilizer structure, possibly becoming wedged in place at high speed and creating a mechanical blockage that restricted or even locked elevator movement. This is more than theoretical. Aerobatic aircraft require precise and full-range pitch control to maintain stability, especially during low-speed maneuvers like landing approaches. Any interference in the elevator's movement, especially if one side becomes restricted, can create asymmetric flight forces, potentially leading to uncontrolled pitch oscillations or a stall spin scenario. And that's exactly what the eyewitnesses described: a porpoising motion, followed by a sudden pitch-up, a sharp left roll, and a final plunge into the ground. Perhaps most revealing was the trim tab position. Investigators found the elevator trim in the full-up position, which translates to a nose-down trim command. Trim is often used to reduce the pilot's control input workload, but in emergency scenarios, it becomes a tool to fight instability. The fact that the trim was maxed out in the nose-down direction suggests that Rob was actively trying to counteract an unexpected pitch-up tendency, possibly induced by a jammed or unresponsive elevator. For a pilot of Rob Holland's caliber, who had tens of thousands of flight hours and was no stranger to in-flight emergencies, such a reaction speaks volumes. The time frame between recognizing the loss of elevator authority and the aircraft entering its final uncontrollable attitude was likely measured in mere seconds. Despite his expertise, the outcome may have been unavoidable once the elevator became compromised. In summary, the working theory emerging from the preliminary findings is that the unsecured left elevator plug backed out in flight, contacted the stabilizer, and interfered with elevator movement at a critical phase, final approach. Whether it created a partial jam, asymmetric deflection, or even a sudden lockup remains to be confirmed in future analysis. But in the world of high-performance aviation, it only takes one small oversight, in this case, a plug the size of a bottle cap, to unleash catastrophic consequences. Despite the extensive detail provided in the NTSB's preliminary report, a number of critical questions remain unanswered, questions that go beyond the mechanical failure and cut to the heart of aviation safety and design philosophy. One of the most pressing mysteries is whether a counterweight was installed in the left elevator at the time of the crash. The report discusses the custom plug used to access the counterweight bay and confirms that the plug backed out and was found behind the wreckage. But it makes no mention of the actual counterweight itself. Was it there? Was it partially dislodged? Could a loose weight, rather than the plug alone, have contributed to jamming the elevator? These are not trivial points. In a system where mass and balance play pivotal roles in control surface behavior, the presence or absence of that weight could dramatically alter the control dynamics in flight. Another key question surrounds the exact mechanism of the pitch control failure. Was it purely a result of the plug backing out and wedging itself against the horizontal stabilizer? Or did the elevator suffer from a more complex interference involving the plug and possibly a loose counterweight inside the structure? Could vibration alone explain the dislodgement, or was the installation design itself inherently flawed? Was there any pre-existing wear, corrosion, or fatigue that allowed the plug to work its way out over time? Unfortunately, with only a preliminary report available, these remain speculative. This tragedy has sparked intense reflection within the aviation community, particularly among aerobatic pilots and experimental aircraft builders. As one veteran airshow performer put it, it's not usually the big things that get you, it's the small ones. A missing cotter pin, a loose bolt. In this case, it may have been a plug just a few inches wide, simple, easily overlooked, but placed in one of the most sensitive control pathways of the aircraft. The broader takeaway is that in aviation, redundancy and mechanical security are paramount. Any modification, even one made by an expert for performance optimization, must still be grounded in principles of fail-safe design. In the world of experimental aircraft, where customization is common and regulation looser than in the certified aviation world, risk management must be proactive, not reactive. To the NTSB's credit, the speed of the preliminary report's release has been praised by many in the aviation community. In the aftermath of the crash, the report offered clarity, honesty, and a potential root cause without delay, an effort that allows the community to begin learning and improving while emotions are still raw. What we wait for now are the final conclusions. Was the avionics system able to capture any data in the moments before the crash? Can further analysis confirm whether elevator movement was restricted by mechanical interference or aerodynamic imbalance? And most importantly, what can be done to prevent this kind of tragedy from ever happening again? These are questions the community is desperate to answer, not just for closure, but for progress. At the end of the day, the loss of Rob Holland is a profound reminder of both the brilliance and the fragility inherent in aviation. As one of the most decorated and innovative aerobatic pilots of our time, Rob inspired countless aviators with his mastery of the sky and his unwavering generosity on the ground. May his memory continue to guide a safer, more inspired future in aviation. That's all for today's video. Thank you for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates.